And I think this is an important word to those of you who are not yet convinced of Jesus, that Jesus comes to you, Jesus approaches you as well as to the one who believes 100% all the time. Jesus is ready to meet us, and I've given you this quote before, whether we have exclamation points all over us or whether we're shrouded in question marks, Jesus comes to us just as we are. Sometimes we hesitate to accept the risen Jesus because resurrection is maybe the toughest thing in our faith to get our minds around. Death seems so powerful. Think about it. Think about this phenomenon of resurrection being tough to get our minds around. Walk into a Christian bookstore sometime, or go online to a Christian book site and see how many books on resurrection you can find. And then sort them out by best-selling. They're not up there. There's not many of them. They're not up there. I'm not talking about some of these books about resurrection as historical fact. I mean books which describe how to think about and how to live out the resurrection in our daily lives. There aren't too many of those books because no one has yet figured out how to make a system out of resurrection, or a self-help guide, or how to make a plan for church growth out of the resurrection of Jesus. Amazing, isn't it? The central doctrine of our faith, and no Christian author has yet figured out a way to make money on it. The simple fact is this: resurrection is something only God can do. You and I can do little else with the risen Jesus but simply disbelieve or believe, walk away or embrace him, stand back or fall on our faces. We go on to read that the resurrected Jesus came and said to them, "All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me." What is authority? Authority is both the right we have to do something combined with the ability or the power to do it. The right or the legitimacy to do something combined with the power or the ability to do it. That's authority. To have authority, you must have both, right and ability. In the case of Zimbabwe today, the country's in crisis because the opposition has really and truly won the election. They have the legitimate, the moral right to govern, but they're missing something. They don't yet have the ability. They're not in power yet. On the other side, the ruling party, headed by Mugabe, he has the power. He's got the army and the police all behind him, but guess what he lacks? He lacks legitimacy. He lacks the moral right to lead. And so the country's in crisis because one side has legitimacy and the other side has the power. People were amazed at the authority of Jesus, that he acted with power to heal, to teach, and to forgive. And they were even more amazed that Jesus taught, healed, and forgave as if he had the right to do it, which of course he did as God's Son. But people didn't pick up on this. They were just astounded that he taught as one who had authority. And this phrase comes up time after time in the Gospels. One example is at the end of the Sermon on the Mount, where Jesus on that hillside gave the blessings to the poor, to the grieving, to the oppressed. And at the end of it all, people stood back, and we read this. When Jesus had finished all these things, the crowds were amazed because Jesus taught as one who had authority, not as the scribes did. Not as the other teachers did, who would say, well, Rabbi so-and-so says this, or Rabbi so-and-so says that. But Jesus taught on his own authority. He said, "Truly, truly, I say to you." He was teaching on his own authority. Jesus had his status as God's Son publicly validated by the resurrection. Before the resurrection, he taught as one who had authority. Now, after the resurrection, God put his stamp on it by raising him from the dead. So Jesus, now here in Matthew 28, can declare his complete authority even more explicitly. All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Jesus makes what we must say is an audacious claim. It's audacious, it's bold, and it's especially bold to be making this claim on Jesus' behalf today, because the standard today is that everyone's opinion has equal value, and that there are many, many different ways in which to find God. No, Jesus says this: all authority, all God's authority has the right and the power has been given to him to lead, to reign, to rule, to bless. And so, based on his universal authority, Jesus gives us the Great Commission. He tells us what to do. He doesn't ask his friends, he tells them. He tells us. Now, interestingly, I think here in this verse, the NIV and the other translations have it ever so slightly wrong. For as Matthew wrote these words down in Greek, there are not two commands, to go and to make disciples. There's only one. What Matthew actually writes is better translated in this way: as you go, make disciples. The force is clearly on make disciples. As you go, make disciples. I think the translation makes a difference, for in reading the common versions, we might think, well, where am I going to go? Do I really have to go somewhere else? And so we spend valuable time browsing travel guides and thinking about where we might like to live someplace else, so that someplace else we can make disciples. We can fulfill this command. But it's not a command. There's simply an assumption that we will be going throughout our lives, sometimes specifically called elsewhere, at other times remaining at home. Jesus was saying, I think, you guys are here with me. And you guys who are here with me, and everyone else who hears these words, as you go, make disciples. Jesus was saying, I know you dudes are going to go places. I know you're going to live your lives, some here, some there. Whatever you do, guys, wherever you go, don't loaf around. Don't sit around all day watching TV or hanging out at casinos. Go to the beach, enjoy the beach, but please, wherever you go, this is your number one priority: make disciples. What does Jesus mean by this command to make disciples? One clue is this: that the phrase translated make disciples is actually one word. It's a verb. It's not make and then disciples. It's literally discipleize. We don't have a word, that's not a word in English, but it's discipleize. Make disciples, I guess you could say. It's one word. This verb means to cause more and more people to become followers or students of Jesus. Here's what Jesus charges us to do: to shape both our individual lives and our life together as a people of God in such a way as to make more and more people want to be followers of Jesus Christ, and to lead those who are following him to follow him more and more faithfully, more and more honestly, more and more consistently. And so, in order to be faithful to this command, you and I must focus like a laser beam on leading people to become followers of Jesus Christ. Other things in our lives and in our church are certainly important. And surely, if we're honest, if someone asked us to name the 10 most important things in our lives, for most of us, maybe making disciples wouldn't even make the top 10. But I hope now, having heard this command clearly, that leading people to follow Jesus will jump to the top of your list. And I hope that you and I can look at our lives and at our life together as a church and see that everything we do needs to flow from this central purpose: to follow Jesus ourselves and to lead others to follow him. Why is that so important? Because everything else that is good in a person's life flows from our relationship to Jesus Christ. Certainly as a church, we can try and have worship and Sunday school and committees and choirs and missions and fellowships and circles and all the rest, and they're all good. But we can approach it one of two ways. We can treat them as nice activities, as separate, disconnected things that we do. And this could go on smoothly for a while, maybe for years, maybe for generations. But if you and I are faithful to the mission that Jesus gives us, the disconnectedness will wither. And all these separate things, what I mean to say is if we're not faithful, all these